Greetings and welcome back, everyone. This is Into the Nexus. I'm Garrett, joined as always by Kyle, Fergusson, and it's a very special episode because we are also joined by Senior 2 artist from the Heroes of the Storm team, Andrew Kinabrew. Andrew Kinabrew. We had a conversation just before the show that I have apparently been pronouncing your last name wrong for years.
Well, what are you going to do?
I guess
my
just
third grade teacher, also got it wrong. People have been getting it wrong all my life. It's fine.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll probably just refer to you as Brew for the rest of the program.
Most people do.
like I do on the episodes when you are not here as a guest, but we make references to your tweets or awesome artwork that you had a hand in, or maybe you didn't have a hand in and we're just assuming it because we're not on the inside, and hopefully you get a giggle of it out of it next time you listen to the show.
I mean, we got a team of awesome people that make art for us, so it's we don't really say, hey, I made this or I made this, so if you point at me and say I made it, I will correct you if I have the opportunity, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. And I would say that team is firing on all cylinders, but I want to say they're flexing on all cylinders because the skins that came in with the recent event are they feel so targeted at my favorite things that have come out of Blizzard, like Warcraft, StarCraft, that it hurts. It hurts my fandom. It's so good.
I mean, we're really proud of this pack. I think it came out well. It's kind of the brainchild of Trevor Jacobs, our art director, and he was like, we really want to do a Craft Wars pack where we blend StarCraft and Warcraft, and it's awesome. I think it's been received well so far.
So that's the chicken and the egg situation then. So the event is brainchilded first and then the skins kind of flow after, or is there ever like everyone's got working on one thing and you're like, wait a minute, we both did robots, let's do robot event? Yeah,
so it comes from different places, right? So someone might have a really good idea and they're like, this say like, I don't know, Arthas, right? The Craft Wars Arthas. He is something that Trev really wanted. Samwise made a concept of I think you can actually see it on a blog of Arthas, and he's got all the Zergy tentacles and stuff mixed with Kerrigan, and it was really, really cool. And that's kind of where it started, right? He's like, it would really be cool to build a pack around this. So yeah, that's when the discussion started with who do we do with this, and we got Gazlo, who we've wanted SCV forever, for as long as I can remember. I was like, we should put an SCV on top of this, but I think we were hesitant to doing it way back when because we didn't have a clear idea whether an SCV would come to the Nexus, and we didn't want to blur that line, and we had a lot of flexible talks back then about like what should we do, when should we do it, that kind of thing. So a lot of these skins, like the Muradin Muradin, didn't come out right away, even though it was back in the day when it was Blizzard All-Stars or Blizzard Dota, right? That was one of the first skins, or it was Muradin, right? Like that's the only thing that you had. And then we didn't bring that in until like 2 or 3 years after launch. I don't remember. But it was a while, right? So it takes a little while for us to figure out when the right time is for it to drop. So but yeah, that's kind of we got Gazlo in there, we got Artanis. Artanis was pushed by me because I was like, Draenei, Protoss, they're the same thing, you smash them together. It made sense. I saw some comments on Reddit that he didn't have a tail, and sorry guys. what are you gonna do, right? That's kind of like what I was talking about before the show. It's like, sometimes art is a miss because someone didn't like it. But for the most part, I think everyone has been digging the skins. You got the Anduin mixed with Valyrian, and I mean that's just us poking fun at ourselves, because that, again, it's the same character, right? Like he's the same guy.
Yeah.
So, but Trev, every time Trev would talk about Anduin, he'd laugh. He'd just be like, we did, this is the same guy. He's the same guy in Starcraft. He's the same guy in Warcraft. So
I think
anyway,
there's
it's fun.
a higher fashion sense in StarCraft.
Mm.
He does have maybe a few shiny trinkets. Yeah.
Yeah,
A
really,
cape.
really into old record players. I guess that was a Manx thing, wasn't it? That's the flashback sequence I'm thinking of. Yep,
Bit.
go me. Mixing my my trench coat wearing folk in StarCraft. But that's sick. So like some of these ideas really kind of wait in the wings for a while, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time, that's how it works with these skins. Is we have an idea. We have no shortage of ideas. Like, we have a internal site that we have concepts and 3D art and that kind of thing. Kind of like, ArtStation or like what is it? Slips my mind, the other one.
DeviantArt.
DeviantArt, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we have an internal site that basically catalogs all the stuff that we've made in the past. So we have just mounds of art, and we just kind of, we're shooting for we kind of do the shotgun approach, right? We're like, we need a skin for Whitemane, and then all of a sudden our concept artist comes up with 5 and we needed 1, so there's 4 skins just sitting there on our internal site that hasn't been touched since, say the inception of Whitemane. But what are you going to do? There's only so many of us so many hands that can make this stuff. We're doing our best to get everything out. I always say, on an infinite timeline, we'll get everything to you. And I don't know, let's hope that I live that long.
It doesn't end though, right? Like I'm assuming there's just more art being created, adding to the war chest of this embarrassment of riches that is unused Heroes of the Storm art. Yeah, that's gotta be, there's gotta be so much fun. I mention every once in a while so folks might be aware or not, but like I went to college for art, and like I haven't experienced anything like it since, because anywhere I've worked in an art capacity, I've been like the only one. The school was so cool because I was just surrounded by creatives all the time, and it was just it was really easy to stay inspired compared to kind of the trajectory my adult life took me into. It was like, I had to go seek inspiration or critique, and instead of just being surrounded by it constantly.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about being at Blizzard. The imposter syndrome kicks in pretty hard. We're surrounded by so much great talent that you get intimidated, and you're sitting there going, man, is this the day? Is this the day that I go to work and they go, I found you out. I know what you're about. You're done. You're done. So I'm it's really good because you can get a lot of inspiration from that kind of crew, and you vibe off it, right? Like someone has an idea and you're like, oh, that would be cool with this, or it makes brainstorming sessions really awesome. So
are you the guy for anything particular? Like everyone's like, okay, I don't want to draw Deathwing. That's so-and-so's project. If I have to draw Deathwing, they're going to just critique the heck out of it. But could we look through the Nexus and be like, wait a minute, shoulder crystals, that's a brew thing.
No, but I am the mother of dragons. I've done Deathwing. I've done.
Oh, nice.
Like Deathwing was one of mine. What was it? Sindragosa was one of mine. Alex Strauss's dragon, that was me. So like I've done dragons in this game. The only one that I think that I didn't touch was Chromie. So Chromie's dragon I didn't do. And I did have a hand in Genji. So technically
Ooh,
and
nice.
also
I
Hanzo.
was about to say, what about
Hanzo's
Hanzo?
old.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, any dragon in the game minus Chromie and actually Lily. I think those two are the only dragons in the game.
Had limited screen
could be
time on
wrong.
those dragons.
Could be wrong.
You know, they don't hang out long.
Right. Anyway, so I am the mother of dragons.
Badass.
So you say like you had a hand in it. Maybe focus on one for the sake of explaining, but like, what do you mean by that? Like, is it like concept phase or?
So for the Overwatch dragons, they were pretty much done because we got assets that were usable from Overwatch. What that
that's
means
cool.
is like the high poly. Okay, let me back up. Okay, so there's different stages to making a 3D model, right? First, you got the concept phase, right? That's on in kind of a 2D space, and then you've got the high poly model, which is where you put all the details and that kind of thing. It looks like a sculpt, as if you're making something in clay. And then from that point, you do what's called Re-Topology, which takes this high poly model and makes it into a lower poly asset. That lower poly asset then gets UV'd, which means that you're taking the 3D asset and you're flattening it out so that you can paint on it. And then you bake what we call baking. We transfer the details from the high poly mesh into the low poly mesh, and that's where you get like if you've ever heard of normal maps, that's where that is. And then you finally get this asset that you can throw in the game, rig it and animate it and add effects to it, make pretty. Okay, so that's where that is. For the Overwatch models, we had good high poly models that we could actually use. The low poly models we can't because they have their own specs and that kind of thing. So we took the high poly model, we adjusted it how we needed it, and we just had to recreate the low poly and the textures from there. So I had a hand in it. Some of the Overwatch team had a hand in it too. For something like Deathwing, that was from start to end me. For Alex Strauss's dragon, that was start to end me. Except for the concept phase. I didn't do the concept phase. For Alex Strauss, that was Luke Mancini. And for Deathwing, it was also Luke Mancini. So, yeah, so there's a lot of hands in it. And then, of course, I don't do the animation or the tech art. That we have an awesome team that does that. I think Lana started on the Deathwing model, and I think Brittany finished it up.
That's awesome. It wasn't that long ago. I had Luke, who a lot of people know as Mr. Jack, on my Hearthstone show, The Angry Chicken. Talked to him about creating art for Hearthstone.
He's a great guy.
Yeah,
I love him.
Wildly talented dude. I remember pouring over a lot of his stuff while I was in art college. As a matter of fact, that's how long he's been slinging over there. So that's rad. So you do a lot of work on the 3D side of things then.
Yeah. Mostly that's where I sit. Although lately I've been kind of dipping into kind of look dev for the game. So I do a lot of lighting and shader work and whatnot for multiple assets. I've been working actually. The shader work isn't all me. It's a lot of it is Mark Petro. That guy is a rock star. He's so much smarter than me. It's not even funny. The guy's brilliant. So anyway, he's done some awesome work that allows us to do some pretty cool things on the model side now and the texture side. So we've been just making sure that everything's consistent. Every asset that goes into the game at this point runs through my hands just to make sure that everything jives together. Like if we have a mount and then a hero, try to make sure that there's some color variations that allow them to mix, so you can have some synergy running around the game, that kind of thing.
So, two questions for you, but the first one: how do you do lighting as an art when I get in the video game and they like run by bright things and they're lit differently?
So there's the map light, right, which is set up by our environment artists, and they set that up. Mostly what I'm responsible for right now is the portrait lighting. So whenever you see a new hero or a new skin, I've done some sort of pass to just make sure it looks okay. I'm not the best lighting artist in the world. I can tell you that right now. There are far better people. There's some people on the Diablo team that'll just destroy me. Like they're so good. But basically, it's a standard 3-point light. You know, you got your key, your fill, and your backlight. And then you've got different ranges that actually allow you to boost or lower the what's called the emissive, which is basically anything that glows. And ultimately, you're just trying to make sure that everything just works well, looks good. Like for the Gazlo portrait for the SCV, I tried to mimic the camera like the SCV in StarCraft. So if you look at it, it's from that angle, and I tried to get the light similar. So it's kind of those like small touches that maybe not everyone notices or picks up on, but I do my best. So
are you talking about in the shop, the camera that's capturing Gazlo?
No, I mean in the game.
In game, next to your health bar.
Corner, next to your health bar.
Oh, okay.
So you have that portrait. You know how when you select this SCV in StarCraft, it comes up with the portrait, and the dude's just sitting there looking over monitors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the angle that I was trying to.
Great touch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. What a nice. That's a cool Easter egg. I like that. I haven't purchased the skin yet. So I've only tried it in try modes. I played a lot of Gazlo this week, but not with the new skin.
He's a good time. I think people are enjoying him.
I think I cracked it last night. We had this discussion. But folks, don't forget about your W on Gazlo. It turns out when you use it and you land it, you don't die as much.
True.
Full on bruiser now.
Oh, dude, I'm loving the new Gazlo. It was my this week's project was figuring that out, and very much digging it. But I'm gonna bring this back around to kind of like the like color and lighting bits of things, which I'm sure this is a little difficult to talk about without visual aids or whatever. But you mentioned when you go to actually paint on the character itself, you essentially take the 3D model and flatten it out, right?
Yep.
What's the term for that?
It's called UVs.
UVs? Okay.
Yeah, it's UVs and texturing.
So when you're doing that, is it like, if I go into Photoshop or something and I go to paint something that I'm going to then transpose with like a transparent background onto something else. Like say I'm doing an overlay or something, I kind of use like a neutral gray as my background. Is that kind of what you're looking at when you're painting onto the 3D model? Because I'm curious.
Very similar.
Okay, I'm curious
Very
about
similar.
Like how you decide what the local colors are, and then like, do you have a way to rapidly apply that to a 3D model and put it in game and see how it looks? To make sure like it pops correctly, you're getting right contrast, and you're not getting weird color blending because of colored light sources in the game or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'll just kind of run you through the process. So that high poly that I was talking about and the baking, what that does is that allows us to create kind of what you're talking about is a grayscale, but it's a grayscale with some lighting information. Now there's other pipelines that you want as little lighting information in the texturing as possible. It's something called PBR or photo-based. Oh man, acronyms. Anyway,
And if I Google it, I'm just going to get beer.
PBR.
So that's not going to help.
Yeah, that's right. Physically based, and I can't remember what the R is. All right. Anyway,
Rendering?
that's from a
Google is saying physically
might be
based rendering.
Physically based rendering. There you go. I usually throw the acronym around, so I I don't remember it. I'm a dumb artist, by the way, guys. I don't I don't remember a whole lot. You know, I just draw pretty pictures.
Welcome to podcasting. We do some light talking points, and then we make the rest up as we go.
Sounds good. Anyway, so PBR, basically what that wants from you is to remove a lot of the shadowing information on what's called an albedo map. We don't quite have an albedo map. We have a diffuse texture, which is just color information. So that is one of the assets that we use on low. So if you're playing the game on low or that kind of thing, it kicks out the normal map. So we have to have some lighting information in that that spec of the game. So basically bake it down, get some grayscale lighting information, and from there we use gradient maps in Photoshop to kind of apply color. But it's a lot of masking, and then hand painting, just rendering shapes, and those exercises that you did in school where you just pick your highlight, pick your shadow and your core shadow and the midtone, and you just kind of fill in all the details. And that's kind of what we do for every asset.
That's awesome. Because I look at I'm on your art station right now. I'm looking at Alex Strauss, and I'm like, boy, that's a lot of individual scales down the back of Alex Strauss. It looks like it took some time.
Well, yes and no. So there's a lot of nice tools in, say, like ZBrush that allow you to create those kind of patterns quickly. It's almost like, I guess, using the patch tool in Photoshop is the best way I can describe it. There's also other ways of doing it where you can actually UV lower version of the model, throw it into ZBrush, have it take on the details of the higher mesh, and from that UV'd version of the high mesh, you can take a tiled version of scales and run it through the entire body. And depending on how you lay out your UVs, you'll just have to fix the seams, the seams are lots of technical terms. The seams are when you lay a model out, a 3D model out, a lot of times you break things off like the arm and have them in their own what's called a UV island. And what that means is that there's an edge that matches another edge on another UV island, but because there's a break there, there's not a clear path. So if you're doing scales, those scales won't match up. So you actually have to go back and make sure that those scales transition nicely across everything. So sorry, way too much information that you'll forget in 10 minutes.
No, that's interesting stuff though. So what happens with someone like Shattered Dark Nexus Deathwing, where he's got a body, but then he's also got this moving triangular patterns throughout his whole form?
Oh, so our effects artists are awesome. I worked with Thomas Horwath on that, and essentially what we did, that it involved a lot of people. It involved Mark, it involved Thomas, and it involved me. And we had this idea of like kind of lava or some sort of like scrolling. So we took that model, so the creation of the model first, and then we created a mask for the body, where it actually passes through, masked out everything else. And then we have a shader system that basically does what's called a scroll of the UVs. And you have this static image that just kind of runs, that's tiled, that runs through the entire model. So it's, when you put it in the game, it looks like it's moving. And honestly, I think it probably should be a little bit more intense than it is, but it's got its own normal map. So like if you look, it's got kind of like angles and stuff like that. And that normal map blends with the normal map below it. It's a bunch of techie stuff that I have a hard time figuring out. Again, like I said, Mark is a genius. I don't know how that stuff works.
Yeah. So then on normal Deathwing, is that all art trickery? Is that effects, like his chest opening glowing and his mouth glowing? Is that just you cranking the brightness and applying lighting on the other sides?
It's not me. It's our effects artist. Thomas worked on that. And so, yeah, he basically amps up the glow. He has dials that allow him to just increase the intensity and decrease it, make it pulse and animate it. And yeah.
It was you all did a really cool, a large chunk of your BlizzCon panel last year was about building Deathwing. And I don't know if it's available anywhere now, but if anyone out there can find it, let us know, because you all broke down the kind of effect side of things, I thought, really well in a way that I had never really seen explained before.
Awesome. That's cool. I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed it. We put in a lot of work for that presentation. So I don't know. It's difficult because like my mom still has a hard time figuring out what I do. So
you and me both, buddy.
Yeah, everyone here.
Thanksgiving is the same conversation every year, and it starts with, "So, what do you do again?"
Yep. You're obviously doing well. I don't see you starving. So, yeah.
Pretty much. Oh, that's great. So, we went out and we collected a good chunk of questions from our listeners. Kyle, do you want to start moving through some of those?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, a lot of these, we're going to start with some art stuff from the community. One thing that kind of comes across multiple angles is, how do the colorations work? There seems to be an assumption like Photoshop, if I wanted to make a blue picture of me, I could jump in there, colorize, crank the thingies, and skin's ready to go. So what happens between one color of Deathwing and the golden color of Deathwing?
A lot, actually. So a lot of that is there's things called Spec Maps, which control the intensity or the description of a material. So what we do for something that's more metallic is we have to crank the spec, and also what's called a gloss map. We have to change that value and make it appear metallic. Right.
It kind of modifies its like reflective kind of what's the word I'm looking for here? Nature, I guess.
Yeah. Just it makes it look more like metal, right? So essentially, we've got that map to adjust. We've got the emissive map, which controls the glow. If there's a secondary emissive map, we have to change that so that it works properly. And then there's a diffuse map that we have to change, which controls the overall color. So you've got those. Generally, you don't touch the normal map. Usually that stays the same across all color variations. But it's not simply just swapping out a color. It is similar to it, You do have what's called a gradient map, and that controls what color swatch is in the shadows. There's a lot of color theory that goes into it. Shadows and highlights have different colors, and you kind of modulate, and different colors will vibrate based on things. We do sometimes do additional like overlay layers and that kind of thing to kind of pop certain colors and make it work well with the overall piece. But a lot of care and love goes into each one of those color variations. I know it seems trivial because it seems like, oh, you just put it in slider, you use the HSV, just and you're good.
You don't just do a colorized layer in Photoshop and call it done. This is blowing
my
mind.
Yeah.
Because the thing that immediately popped in my mind when you started talking about like the skin tint variants, Kyle. But the thing that like I notice, and I would assume a decent number of players notice, is like you mentioned Skinergy much earlier in the show, Brew, and that's something that I notice with the different skin tints. Like there's Death Knight Sonya is one of my favorite skins in the game. There's a red variant with her helmet off, if anyone's wondering about the very specific thing that I'm talking about. But there's a red variant of that, and that red matches a ton of the other reds that are used on mounts. If you have red variants or mounts that are just red to begin with, like those reds, they're cohesive and they match. It'd be like you ding your car door, you go get it repainted, and they use a slightly different red, and every day you walk out to your car and you're just like, oh, that looks terrible. I can see where the seam is.
Yeah, I think if I were to go back, I think I would push for a stronger resemblance between a lot of the colors that we have, because I know that we have a large swath of different types of colors sometimes. And I think if we honed in on that earlier, that would be better. But right now, we're doing our best to just like pick something, and we're kind of retroactively trying to make sure that we can match some of this stuff. So for new skins, we make an point to pick out like this mount right here, this specific color variation. We're gonna match that gradient map, that kind of thing. So mounts are a whole different thing with colors, because you don't think about it, but a lot of times when you're writing a mount, the top part of your hero is kind of the brightest, and as it goes down, it goes darker. So we have to have the mount match more what the value is of kind of the hips and below, just so that it looks like it fits, like they fit in the same world. So anyway, there's a lot that goes into that kind of thing. A lot of thought, a lot of care, a lot of anyway. Sorry, my camera keeps going out of focus.
That's all right.
It's bothering me a lot.
By the way, thanks for adding the darker tinted Chihuahua, because it looks my most loyal of my 3 Chihuahuas, the one that loves me the most.
Wanman actually did that. He's a great artist.
Oh, sick.
Like,
and the red in the mask matches the red Sonya skin, so I'm getting a lot of use out of it. So it's perfect. It's perfect.
That part is closer to me. I did the consistency pass across all of Nexomania. So
badass.
Yeah, so it's just making sure that all the colors match. You can put Diablo next to Sonya, and they're gonna work. Imperius next to Garrosh, and you're gonna have some color variations that flow well, and you can in quick match you can have that 5-man team that matches and they look good right in on the same
wild.
So
that's the stuff your brain notices but you don't, when you because I've done that on stream. Let's all make Nexomania comps, and we all put on our Nexomania. Oh, don't we look fabulous? And then we move the heck on with no appreciation for the beautiful colorization that you've done. And even colorization is probably the wrong word, because that's just what I know.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, it's, if we're doing our job right, no one says anything. Maybe they're like, that's cool, but they move on really fast.
I do have a question though, because you mentioned kind of the art station sort of thing.
Sure.
And when an event comes out, there are often portraits that come with it. Like, you know, let's say this horribly awesome Zul'jin.
Yeah.
Is that you guys wanting me to get really excited and really loud because I really, really want Shark Greymane and I want you to do it someday?
That's us getting really, really excited about these things. Like these are ideas that we couldn't do this time around, right? Like these are ideas that like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool to have a Zul'jin skin? That would be so sick. In fact, like that was one of the ones that I pushed, you know, it was like, would we have Arthas, Artanis, Anduin, what is it, Gazlo, or Zul'jin? Like, and then you know there was others too that float around, but like I was like that Zul'jin sounds like a good idea. And
so do you have to like every now and then? Is it like your own political agenda? Like whenever there's a chance for you to fight for Zul'jin, is that something you're bringing up?
Oh, absolutely. We definitely champion the ones that we love. We don't always win. I was in the corner of Zul'jin from the beginning, but as you can see, he's not here. So it didn't quite work. Not this time around. But you know, for the example of like say Nexomania, Oscar Vega put out some amazing concepts for that, right? They're not out either. So we've gone through 2 Nexomanias and we still have ideas. So we can only put out so much stuff.
That's fair. I mean, I always go through these things because I mean, there's like embalmed stitches and like it's called natural selection, but it appears to be Zerg Deathwing. There's so many cool ideas in here that I want it all, but I know of Medusa's Kerrigan, like there's such cool stuff in there. Talking about and getting towards some more of these skin particulars, there's been a lot of talk about the Arthas. Did his legs move? He lost his crotch skull.
Sure.
So there's this feeling like he's an updated model because his legs appear longer. Did that happen?
Nope, didn't happen. We're still in the headspace that we want to do rework for Arthas, but it hasn't come yet. But also Trev really pushed for this Arthas skin. I wanted to hold off on it, but we decided that it would be best to pull Arthas out because he hasn't had a skin in a while, and he looks really cool. And making a skin for a current rig is actually easier than doing an update that changes proportions. So even though Arthas has wings in this skin, it was easier to do that than it would be to do the rework that we want to do. So yeah, I think the perception that you're seeing, or the look that he is taller, is because he doesn't have his belt. You know, so like you're seeing more of the proportions that we originally set for the model. And we also, you know, for that belt, you know, if you look at the cinematic, like Arthas has a pretty massive belt. Like it's pretty similar.
Well, it also has essentially like a tabard that hangs down below it, which is really gonna visually make it seem like, you know, for lack of a better word, the groin is lower, which is gonna make him look more stout and make his legs look shorter.
Yeah, it's why people wear black, makes him look slimmer, you know, that kind of thing. He's a darker model, so he's gonna look a little bit skinnier. You know, he doesn't have the horizontal stripes, so he's doing all right.
Horizontal stripes, that's great. Geez. Yeah, and I guess keeping it going with questions that we got from our listeners, one of the ones we got, which I guess is right there with like Zergjin, as you were saying, what would you consider to be the, if not one of the wildest art ideas that you've had that has not made it into the game yet?
I don't think there's any that hasn't made it into the game yet.
So what's the wildest one that has made it in? What is the one that you can't believe is in the game today?
Pumped Up Pato.
Which one is this?
It's the inflatable duck.
Oh,
what is that?
So again, this is something Trev was like, "Hey, we're gonna do this. This is gonna be awesome." And I was like, "I don't know." So he's like, "Trust me." And every time I looked at it, I was like, "I don't know if this is gonna work, Trev. I don't know but I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna trust you." And I got in, and it's one of my favorite mounts in the game. It just came together. It's so fun. So that's one of those things that if one of us artists, like, we go, this is gonna work. I'm gonna champion this. I have an idea. I have a clear vision for this thing, and we just need to carry it out. We just need to just push through because we trust each other. Sometimes we're like, this is gonna work. This is gonna be cool, and we just got to do the work, do the footwork, and get in game. Because honestly, it's one of my favorite things. The sound when you dismount, it's great. Like it's an awesome mount. I love that thing so much. But yeah,
is there if there is a police chief divvying out the jobs for the day movie scene, is there any hero in the room that people want to work on and are like, no, anything but that? I don't want to do a skin for so and so. They're crazy.
Let's see here. Honestly, all right. So I can tell you what I want personally and what people are they need convincing.
Okay.
I really want Blackthorne in the game. The argument against it is it's just another guy with a gun. Just another guy with a gun. He's another Rainer, that kind of thing. But for me, I see him as like the last action hero of the Nexus, right? Like he's the John McClane of the Nexus. Like he's the action star, right? He's doing crazy things, takes a motorcycle that rises up from the ground and just flings it into someone, maybe grabs a helicopter, brings it down on somebody. You know what I mean? Like just crazy, crazy stuff. Think of like Hobbs and Shaw or any of the action films that you see, like we could really like play off that action film thing. I think it would make a really fun kit. And honestly, like he's kind of a blank slate. You could kind of do anything that you want. And then of course you get the signature like shotgun over the shoulder, right? But like he's awesome. But again, it's been one of those things where we have to get everybody on board. Just like with Zul'jin, the Zergjin skin, we didn't get that on the docket. But like there's always these discussions of like, we should do this, we should do that. And it's just more like what sells it? What's the thing that everybody's excited for and not just me, right? So
would that be,
this is a out of the blue follow-up, and feel free to just be like, I can't answer that. Has there been any talk about a Blackthorne skin for Rainer? Because we have a Rainer out of armor skin, which already changes the silhouette a decent amount.
Sure. So the thing about we could, but I think I'm the opposition to that.
Nice.
Like there's sometimes we're like, oh, okay, maybe that's hitting too close to that because we might actually bring Blackthorne one day to Heroes. And we don't want to have like Nova, Amazon Nova, the Novazon hit really close to what Amazon was. And I mean, we don't want to have to make a hard decision where we change her base tint to separate her from a hero. Like that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good as a player. You know, you had this awesome skin, you know, as Nova, you're running around with it, and then all of a sudden we change it. That sucks. So we don't want to go through that. Just as much as you probably don't want that to happen to you. So I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm playing the game all the time. I'm just as much of a player as you guys are.
Can confirm you are on my friends list and you are in there all the time.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that we know what sucks. You know, what feels bad. And when we do make decisions that don't quite feel good, know that we went through that, 6 months to a year before you did. We've had some time to adjust to it, and that it's just a thing.
Gotcha.
Let's ride that for a moment, though. What do you play? What's your favorite? You're the artist, so you can tell us your favorite combo. What do you dress up as?
Don't answer this, Brew. What Kyle is trying to trap you into is saying your favorite heroes so that listeners go, that's why that hero gets so many rad skins. Favoritism.
That wasn't what I was.
I'm kidding. I'm making a joke.
It's ETC, actually. I love ETC.
All right.
He's been one of my staples for a very, very, very long time. I'm a tank main. So
Nice.
Yeah, so he's one of those heroes that I love. As far as skins go, I love the elite Tauren chieftain level 800. What is it? I don't remember the names of all the skins, but it's the StarCraft crossover where he makes him into a marine. I love that skin.
That's the one I have insta selected or like auto selected all the time.
Artist named Brian Maroney did it. Super big fan. I love that he was able to get that into the game. That's another skin that's what ETC was back in Blizzard Dota, Blizzard Dota, Blizzard All Stars. That's what he was, and it took a while for him to come around.
That's awesome.
The only one I know of that isn't in is that crazy like bursted marine stitches.
Yes, the marine stitches. There's a lot of talks about that because sometimes you look at skins that were done a long time ago and you're like, well, we could probably do that again. Sometimes it just doesn't hold up as well as it could be right now.
There's a few instances of that in the game already, like the Kerrigan Succubus comes to mind. Like we have a kind of like two very clear versions of that.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah.
But that's
yeah. And that's just us as artists growing too. It's not me saying like it was bad, right? What that artist did was bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that we've grown as artists and we can do better. So
I mean, it was 7 years ago probably that was made?
It's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Like the game just looks better. Like when new things get added to the game now, like you can tell like there have been lessons learned along the way, and to the outsider who doesn't know what your workflow looks like, it's like, oh, they've just found new ways to really push this engine.
It's more the artist finding the flow and figuring out quick ways of doing things well. And the faster you work, the more you can put into it. So that's just one of those things.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Blackthorne would have, the helicopter smash and the motorcycle throw. That would be like a summoner level of work, right? Because you would have to do the character and all their bits.
It's what we call an ability model.
Okay.
So basically, and that falls on the shoulders of the environment artist or a character artist, someone who can do props, basically. So you make this thing that is gameplay dependent. Things that fly through the air are generally easier to do than things that require specific grid spacings, because when you're doing gameplay, you have to just make sure that everything lines up and fits within a game unit, that kind of thing. So we really have to. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Ability model is what it is. And we do those all the time. We set up ability models for a lot of things. It's actually what holds us back from doing some skins, because if you have something like the Lost Vikings, who has the Viking boat, you have the projectile, you have their obelisks back at base, and you have 3 heroes, it makes it a larger strain on that particular department to put that out. So it takes a lot more planning and pre-production to get those things in a spot where we can give those to you. It's a lot easier to turn out one hero that has one model than to, say, do something like Diva or like Falstad or Lost Vikings or Rexar.
Oh no.
I'm not saying those are out of the picture. I'm
Sorry,
just saying
I already have a
that
StarCraft
it's
skin
like,
for Rexar. I'm good.
yeah, on a scale of things, right? If you look at like what assets are easier to make than others, you're going to be leaning towards characters with only one model. Now, there's a stipulation to that, because if that hero is also effects heavy, so you have something like Ragnaros, he's super effects heavy. He's also a BlizzCon hero, which means that the run up to BlizzCon and the development on that hero, we tried to spice it up a lot more than we would normally do for a hero. It means that the due diligence and the things that we have to actually like attack to recreate a skin for that is much larger. So like there's a swath of things, and if you have effects heavy and model heavy, it means it's a hard time. So, but generally model heavy is the preferred way to go right now in our current pipeline.
So before we kind of leave this realm of discussion, one of the questions, and which also got some discussion in our community, were about the latest Arthas skin. I'm just going to read it verbatim because they tee it up in a way I think is important, because they say, "My question is going to come off as ungrateful, and it's not meant to be. Why doesn't the insanely awesome King of Blades Arthas skin have new animations and/or themed abilities? Is he one of those difficult effects heavy heroes because he's just constantly pulsing frost?"
For him, it was actually time. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of different things packed together. A lot of our production is planned out in basically up to a year in advance. And what that means is that we have certain things that we can slot into that production schedule, and it's a moving thing, right? So like our effects department might be slammed at that time, and they might not be able to do everything that that we want. There might not be enough animation people because they're working on something else. You know what I mean? So in order to get it through, if we have a long enough timeline, if we have long enough runway, then we could get everything in the world. But the simple fact of development is that it has to release sometime, and we have to put gates on those things. So it's basically time. And I mean, that's it. Sorry, guys. We have to choose which characters get more love, and sometimes it's not the one you want.
I think you teed it up well earlier when you said you guys are aware of this stuff years before we are, and probably having the same bummer conversations that happen around the Reddit. You're like, oh, I
Right.
knew that would happen. But
you got Gazlo, you've got Artanis, and they've got all ability models and effects that are thematic, except for the swap. Sorry, we'll get that fixed on Artanis.
no, I want to go to.
That was my fault, by the way. I looked over that and it didn't click. I saw that and it didn't just snap for some reason.
No theme swap and no tails. 6.5 out of 10, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, I gotta go against the tail thing. He's got a back cape butt robe thing.
Yep.
Where's a tail gonna go?
Kyle, you can have a cape on your Draenei in World of Warcraft. I'm just saving you some emails from Draenei mains. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those. It's time. I wanted it to happen. A lot of people on the team wanted it to happen, but I mean, as far as this discussion has gone, like I said, we don't always get what we want on our team too. Like we push for as high of a quality bar as we possibly can, and I think we deliver on a lot of those things. But for Arthas, I know for some people that's going to be a bummer. But I mean, that skin looks cool, looks good.
I really like it. I didn't even think about it, but yeah, it's effects for me are one of those things. Like I don't usually notice it. Every once in a while, it kind of. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird that I noticed that the reds match from a skin to a mount, but
no, the Zerg and the Frost. I mean, I think it was Heart of the Swarm levels there, but Zerg purple looks awesome on ice.
Yeah.
So I was pleased as punch and absolutely shocked to see the call. I mean, you guys change literally the playability of characters for me. Now, this is gonna be me geeking out on you, but I gotta go there. Like May, nice kit. I need tanks for what I do because I'm tanking. It was a bit of a hard sale, but I like the kit. And then you guys roll up with Re-Topologist May, highly playable. Go from normal Tychus to infested Tychus, highly playable now. That's a hero I can get into, become a main on.
I think that's the best thing for us to hear. We like putting out these skins. We get jazzed about these skins. We think they're awesome. And to have a reaction like, I want to play that hero again because this skin is awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad. So thank you. Our team thanks.
It's one of the themes we come back to a lot on the show, and I wonder if like the tryhards out there are just like, no one cares, I just want to win with my hero. But like Kyle and you and I totally see eye to eye on this. Like the fantasy of the hero is a big thing to both of us. So
yeah,
it's the skins do.
Fantasy is great.
Yeah, they do a lot for me as well. Sorry, Kyle, I cut you off with my own personal excitement about skins.
Oh, no. But if there was someone out there who wanted to, let's say, send you a tweet, what one thing in the Nexus would they compliment? Like those crystals glowed just right. Like what would be the one thing that really, really bakes the cookies for you guys?
That's interesting. Like, I think our nature is, or at least my nature is kind of self-deprecating. So I talked about that imposter syndrome. So thinking about compliments that other people would give me that make me happy is not something I normally do. Like when I see a comment that's like, this is awesome, this really made my day, it makes me happy, it makes me jazzed, right? Like it's cool, right? It's part of the reason why I'm an artist. But most of that is that I enjoy the art, right? Like I'm getting a lot of fulfillment out of just doing the work. A successful piece is always preferred, but it's like what we were talking about before the show. Is it's all in the eye of the beholder, right? We have a skin that could be amazing to one person, and to someone else, it could just not be their thing, could not be their jam. And those people have different opinions. They're both valid, and it's okay not to like something, right? I think the part that is harder to take as an artist is when the feedback isn't just I don't like this, it's not for me, and it's more mean spirited, like
Fair.
they have to tear it down in a weird way. Like it's like, why would you go there? Why did you do that? So I think
It feels like a personal attack in that case, right?
so I'm pretty disconnected from my art at this point. So you can pretty much tell me whatever about my art and I'll be like, yeah, I could see that,
All right, then let me come at you on Monkey Brightwing, because who signed off on that? It gives me nightmares.
I'm not gonna call names on that one. I honestly, I love that skin. I think it's great. I think that skin is awesome, and I use it a lot when I play Brightwing.
Well,
But,
the way that it creeps me out brings a lot of our audience joy. So there's success there for sure.
Oh, I didn't even think of that one.
There's the balance.
Highly playable though. The Destroyer Brightwing. That is the one that made me go back to Brightwing, and now I'm using it regularly.
That's another one that has been like sitting on the books for ages, and we just finally were able to turn it out.
There are two skins I've been screeching for since we started this show, and one was Deathwing Brightwing. The other is Mutilus Brightwing, because there's that, I think it's fan art running around of a Mutilus Brightwing, and to me it's just perfect, and I want it.
What's fun is like when our concepts align with the community, because like a lot of these ideas, right, we have pretty early on, and when it comes out, like someone drew the same thing or had the same idea, we're like, that's validation, right? Like that works, because I've seen a lot of concepts out there. Some are very, very unique, right? But some of them we've had before, and it's more of like that hive mind of like, this has got to be a pretty good skin if someone also came up with it too. So
that's awesome.
Are there any Easter eggs throughout the art or the skins that you might be able to reveal? Like, for instance, there's the red Rexar that has May on the butt.
Right.
Is there anything we haven't noticed that you would be able to hint us at?
On the skins?
Yeah, just like anything, or even just like a touch that you added that has gone unnoticed.
Man, I don't think there really is. Like, most people have a pretty good eagle eye on these things. Like, we try to put Easter eggs in, but mostly that's on the map side. Like usually you have, like the eye monster creature on Warhead, the arcade cabinets on Braxis.
The eye monster creature on Warhead?
Yeah. There's I'm pretty sure there's video of it, but there's like an eye monster creature. I think it's in the southern part on the, I want to say on the right side near that gate. There's some sort of like pool that if you do something around it will spawn like an eye monster.
I am completely unaware of this.
It looks like the thing from the trash compactor.
Yeah.
Oh,
something similar to that.
Sick.
So there's that. Like there's like the Diablo maps have like a sword that you can click on that can drop, and you can't pick up because your inventory is full.
My inventory is full.
Yes. Tortured souls on the hell side, kind of like watch you walk around, which, I mean, we were thinking about what we needed to do to get them in the center of the map, but the reality was that they're really big, and large things in the center of a map generally means that that is play space that you can't play in, you know. So that's kind of one of those things that you have to keep in mind when you're creating playgrounds for people to move around in.
I think they're badass. I like those guys.
Oh yeah, you know, Harrison Jones, all that stuff. Like, I think pretty much people pick up on that stuff pretty quickly. You know, some people it takes. I think the longest it was like 4 or 5 months before someone or I saw someone on Reddit or the forums figure it out. And it just takes a while sometimes, but most of the time people figure it out right away. People are just like, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? Does this work? And, you know,
it used to be a thing I used to actively seek out in Blizzard games, like, you know, going back to like there's no cow level and that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, there's all kinds of Easter eggs in these games, and I used to spend a lot of time looking for them. And I don't know, maybe it's just me getting old, and I'm just like, yeah, let's just play the game. I just want to play the game. So I miss out on so many of these things, and yeah, it's that's great. I did not know about the friggin' eye monster. I'm gonna have to go find that.
That's a good time.
Another question we got, because you talk so much about, you spent so much time today talking about how, you know, as one would expect in a team of any sort, but you all kind of have your own things that you're passionate about and you'd like to see come to the game that you kind of champion. One of the questions we got from our listeners was they want to know if the art team ever resolves disputes by taking it to the Nexus, and does it work out?
No. We try not to use heroes as a way of settling disputes. We have different leveled players, and it's almost like the better player might get what they want more often than the person who, you know, might not be as good as that player. So that doesn't necessarily seem like a fair way to resolve an argument. So most of the time we just talk it out, you know. Oftentimes it results hugging it out afterwards, making sure that you're okay with this, you're all right. You know, so.
Cool. Well, that's great. Kyle, was there, I'm jumping around like crazy. Was there anything we missed question wise?
I think we're good, man. This was awesome.
I think we are too, man. Brew, thank you for coming back on and being so generous with your time. It was really cool to sit here and geek out with you about one of our favorite parts of this game, which is the art and the skins, especially after this event. Kyle and I became friends because of Warcraft and StarCraft. We started doing podcasts because of StarCraft. So seeing these two collide in just such a ridiculous, over the top, turned up to 11 way, we're really stoked. So we're glad that you came back on. So where can people keep up with you if they want to interact with you, if they want to see some of your work? Any links you want to point people to?
I mean, I don't know. Like all my Twitter and stuff is all personal based mostly. So like if you follow me, you're gonna see just my regular opinions, which by the way do not reflect the my employer. But like as far as things go, you can catch me on Reddit. Like I answer a bunch of questions. Was it Blizz_Kinabrew, I think is my handle on there. But I try to answer a bunch of things. Sorry guys, I haven't been on Reddit as much as I'd like to. I've been trying to get out the Craft Wars release, as well as, you know, some other things that are coming up, which again, things are coming. They're cool. So they're always cool. We're always excited for what's coming coming in.
We know better than to ask you about that stuff, but yeah.
I'm also excited for, you know, the event, you know, the content drop after that and the content drop after that. Like we've got a bunch of stuff planned for next year, and it's going to be super fun. You know, we're in the process of working on multiple heroes. So, you know, you guys support us, and we're gonna do the best that we can to take care of you. So
Well, that's awesome. Y'all been doing great work over there, and we really like the outreach from the team. And not just patting ourselves on the back when you come on our show. We like it when y'all do AMAs and you're commenting and tweeting and all that kind of stuff. So
nice. Thank
you, and keep up the great work. Folks, if you can, I don't think we mentioned the Twitter. It is AKA TheBrew. If you want to find Kinabrew on Twitter. And I just realized how ridiculous it was to say, like, where can people see your work? Play the game. Play the game, everybody. See Brew's work
You'll see it.
by playing Heroes of the Storm. Absolutely.
Particularly the dragons. Play the dragons.
Play the dragons.
Yeah. Well, you got May too. That's part of mine too. The Necro-Topologist is one of mine.
Heck yeah.
Sick. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fun.
The risk of getting called a shill, like these skins for this event, it's just money that no longer belongs to me. I need to. I need them
with me.
I need them. I need them. So, well, rad. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode, and I don't know if the storm is coming across, but it sounds like just in time. There's a crazy thunderstorm happening outside. We want to thank those of you who support. What's that?
Sorry, I miss thunderstorms. I want a thunderstorm. Sorry, you were closing the show.
That's quite all right. I wanted to know what you said. We want to thank those of you who are supporting us on Patreon. If you like what we're doing here on Into the Nexus and you want to support us, the Patreon is the best way to do so. It's patreon.com/ITN. Huge thanks to everyone over there supporting us. You get access to our Discord, ad-free versions of the show when we have ads, and you get to sign up for our game nights. Also, huge thanks to our producers, Declan H, Cheesy Bob, Chris K, Mike C, and Sean B. Thank you very much, all of you, for the support. You can catch us live Thursdays over at twitch.tv/amovetv is when we do the live recordings. You can see Kyle's wondrous, perfectly kept hair. Today you would have seen Brew's amazing beard that rivals that of Samwise. By the way, chat room wants to know who's got the better hair, you or Samwise?
Oh, actually, we get mistaken for each other. Actually, I get mistaken for him often. I'll be walking down the hall and someone will be like, "Hey, Sammy," and I'm like, "Nope." Surprise.
Samwise gave me a very memorable bear hug the first time I ever met him at my very first BlizzCon, because I was like having him sign a book and I was just geeking out on him for a second. He just like totally bear hugged me, and that's my first interaction with Samwise ever.
Dude, I love Sammy. He's the best guy. He's so fun.
Super nice, and will absolutely talk your ear off about art if you give him the chance.
Oh, ABC, man, always be creating. That's his slogan.
Yep. Kyle, before we go, where can everyone find you?
You can find me over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson playing Heroes of the Storms. Lots of scrims right now. NGS is going on. We won our first NGS game, and it was a hard-fought battle against lots of people from our community even.
I was about to say, I was talking to Dorivo last night, and I was like, "How you doing, man?" He's like, "A little sore after fighting Kyle the other night."
Oh, we had to get him. He was trouble, man. He was big trouble. Yeah, he became the target because he was too good for us. But you should head over to kylefergusson.com. We are in season 6 of DMGI, the Dungeon Master 5th edition inspiration show. Also teaching you rules and stuff like that for playing 5th edition. So check that out. And I want to I've still got the stage for a moment. I want to take a moment, once again, thank our guest, but also say it is awesome that you're active on that Reddit, encouraging artists. I love seeing you around, not only talking the talk, but just being inspirational to people. It's badass.
Thanks. I love our Reddit community. They're awesome. Every artist needs encouragement, right? Like everyone needs a little attaboy, right? So I'm glad that they have enough confidence to put their work out there, because that's the biggest step, right? It's tough to get over that hurdle, because already an artist has insecurities about their work, right? And to put it out there and be vulnerable is awesome. So I love that our players put out artwork, and I am always in your corner. I want to see you succeed. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. Folks, I'm on Twitter at Garrett Art. amove.tv for this podcast and every other one that I make. If you can't tell, I really like it when we get artists on. It doesn't happen all that often. But I guess I mentioned it. Go dig up the interview we did with Mr. Jack over on the Angry Chicken. I want to say it was about 3 months ago. Also really cool insights into what it's like creating art for Blizzard games. And I think it would mix very nicely with this episode. If you want to listen to them kind of in rapid succession. So go check that out. Thank you again, Brew, for stopping by. Thank you, everyone at home, for listening. And until the next episode of Into the Nexus graces your podcast feed, good luck and have fun.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.